Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here today. We're going to be guiding you in a breathing mindfulness meditation session. My name's David. I'm normally there at the temple with you guys, but because I'm traveling now, the students have made it available for me to zoom into the temple and still be able to guide you guys and teach you. This is part of our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I meet with students at the temple and I meet online with students to be able to guide them on the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, I do a talk on each chapter of our book for this particular program. It's a 7-month program where each Sunday I'm giving a talk chapter by chapter by chapter. And on Wednesdays, I meet with students and guide them in meditation and then just open up to any and all questions that you guys might have. So I'll guide you guys in a breathing mindfulness meditation session, and then I'll kind of share a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha with you, and I'll just open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Essentially, what the Buddha did is he taught teachings that guide you to the enlightened mental state, where your mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. And there's other benefits as well, which we'll talk about after meditation. But part of the path to enlightenment is to train the mind with meditation, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment, because you need other things besides meditation. So while you wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment, you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So that's why we start each one of our classes with some meditation. What I'm going to do to guide you guys in a meditation session is I'm first going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And if you guys would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. The chants at the temple are over there on a laminated sheet by the bulletin board. You're welcome to help yourself and get one of the chanting sheets. You'll see the Pali language there. You also see the English translations. For anyone who's joining us online, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can actually get these chanting sheets by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, and click on free books. And down towards the bottom, you'll see the daily chanting sheet. Because what you'll be maybe interested to do is learn how to do the chanting, because you actually get more benefit out of the chanting itself. The Buddha didn't teach any rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship. This isn't prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because he spoke orally. They didn't write things down during his lifetime. So it wasn't until after his death that they actually wrote his teachings down. And they used chanting during his lifetime to recite the teachings and commit them to memory. So you can see that there isn't anything mystical or magical with chanting. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. In fact, these chants that you guys have, I don't even think that the Buddha created them. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because you can see there's a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha in those chants. And because of that, I know that the Buddha wouldn't have created them himself, because that would be arrogance and ego to walk around and say, hey, students, chant this to me out of respect to me. But if you learn from a teacher of how to move from the anger and the sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything for you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that teacher too. So this is why I suspect that these chants actually came from his students. But I'm going to be chanting these on the way into meditation and on the way out. So you're more than welcome to chant if you like, because it prepares your mind and helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself as you're easing into the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, you're going to hear me providing guidance for about 5 minutes or so. I'll be kind of instructing you in the meditation while we're actually doing it together. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Everyone at the temple and everyone online, we're just all going to be meditating. And during that time where it's quiet, it's important to understand that there's not going to be permanent quietness. Whereas if your mind craves it to be permanently quiet, when you hear a sound, you'll be annoyed or frustrated or agitated. That's your own mind that's causing that. So I'm sure you're going to hear a car go by or a bird chirping, a dog barking, or any of these other things. Maybe even someone will cough or sneeze or something like this. This is all impermanence. And if your mind craves permanent silence, when you experience that impermanence, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. But it's your own mind that's causing this, and you can eliminate that by training your mind to not have craving, desire, attachment. After that period of time where it's quiet and we're meditating, then we're going to come out of that meditation with some more chanting. The same chants that we went into the meditation with, we're going to come out with those. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions. The Buddha taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And as part of your journey to enlightenment, you would learn these 4 different positions because you're going to need them at different times. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position, so I'll share that with you to help give you a little bit of guidance on that. And then as you go forward in your journey, you can learn these other positions as well. You can either be sitting on the floor, in a chair, maybe on a bench or a wheelchair or in a sofa. There's any number of places you can sit. There's not just one fixed position. So the guidance that I provide you is just something for you to consider in terms of sitting, because everybody's body is a little bit different. You need to find what's comfortable for you. But here are some suggestions you might decide to consider. If you're sitting on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This will help soften your seat a bit. And some people like to bring their legs together in the cross-leg position. You like to do that just lightly. Whereas if your legs are really tight, this will impede the circulation and it can cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This helps to get their hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. And this is comfortable for some people as well. And then in terms of the hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If that is comfortable for you, you could use that. But it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way, because that's not actually possible. There's some other options too. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. And in terms of anybody who would like to sit in a chair or on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair, there's many different options for you as well. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. And then, of course, your hands and arms, you can put those wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This helps to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help you to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, and you're welcome to join along. Then I'm going to come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso imakawa arahang sammasammuto vicacaranang sammuno sakatoro kawitu Anutero purisa Namasati satatawa manusranam Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thoughts, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโหตังมาเขวันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone there at the temple. Welcome to everyone online as well, whether you're joining in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been joining regularly, welcome to everyone. As I mentioned at the beginning, today is our group learning program, and each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students and help you on the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, I give a talk on the chapter of our book that we're in. This week, we're going to be in chapter 19. It's the first volume of our book series. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is part of the Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden Book series. You can actually get this book from our website by downloading it for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions at the temple just by reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. That's the great place to start because it gradually builds you up, slowly but surely, developing all the foundational understanding that you need to make your journey to enlightenment. And then there's various programs and courses and classes that we have throughout the months and throughout the years to be able to help you on your journey. Today, what I did is I guided you guys in a breathing mindfulness meditation session. This is the primary form of training that the Buddha used in terms of meditation. There's other meditations that he taught as well, but this is the primary one that he used. But there's other teachings that you would need to know as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha with you here, just kind of giving you a little bit of taste of that. And then I'm going to just open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the path to enlightenment or the teachings of the Buddha or the Buddhist teachings. You can ask anything and everything that you like. If you'd like to ask questions and you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can just put your comments and your questions into the comment section of Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, and I'll be able to see that, and then I'll answer your question for you. if you would like to ask questions in Zoom and you'd like to raise your hand electronically, then you can unmute yourself, and then we'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream, and they'll be able to hear you at the temple. If you're at the temple and you would like to ask questions, there's microphones there in the white bowls. All you need to do is get a microphone, press the gray button, the lights will come on, and you just hold it up to your chin, and then you can ask any questions that you like, because they'll be able to hear you at the temple and we'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream as well. If you talk there without a microphone, we wouldn't be able to hear you. And then you're welcome to keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. And if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that way you won't get any feedback from the speakers at the temple. So in terms of the teachings of the Buddha, what they are their teachings to guide you to the enlightened mental state. It's to help train your mind to get to a mental state where the mind is permanently peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind will be focused, you'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. This comes from uprooting the pollutions that are in the mind. There are certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered that if you train your mind, you can uproot these out of the mind, and you'll notice that your mind will perform more optimally. You won't experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings and emotions are coming from other people, when in reality, these are actually being caused by your own mind. So you can actually train your mind to uproot the causes and conditions that are producing this within your own mind. And as you do, you'll experience the peace and the joy starting to shine through in the mind more and more. And this comes through training of the mind. The teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of beliefs. So you're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because maybe somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. Instead, the teachings of the Buddha are inviting you to learn and examine and investigate his teachings. That's the intellectual work that you need to do in order to be able to understand the teachings. But then there's the reflection of the teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false through your own direct experiences in life. Then you practice his teachings, integrating the teachings into your day-to-day life. And this is where the real transformation of the mind is truly occurring. And you'll see more and more improvement to the condition of the mind. So meditation is just one component of an entire life practice that the Buddha taught that is going to guide you to enlightenment. The Buddha taught a core central teaching that is referred to as the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha that's going to guide you in how to train your mind to be able to then get to enlightenment. You would need to know this Eightfold Path inside and out, backwards and forwards, in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. And this is a teaching that you learn as you're making your way to enlightenment. There's certain words behind each one of these factors on the path that here you're just seeing an image on your screen, but the words of the Buddha are actually going to describe what each one of these factors are, what each one of these steps are. And as you learn what each one of these are and you integrate it into your life, you can actually actively train the mind to eliminate the pollutions and the causes that are producing these discontent feelings. And that's where a teacher comes in, that essentially what we're doing is we're like a tour guide pointing out for you what it is that you need to learn, how you need to grow and develop along the path. But it's each individual student who's choosing to do the work. So you're not like a devotee or a follower or anything like this. You are an independent practitioner who's looking to acquire wisdom about the natural laws that are around you, because there's certain natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And when you have a lack of wisdom of these natural laws, you will struggle and have difficulties in your day-to-day life. But when you awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws, meaning you cultivate wisdom about these natural laws, you won't struggle and have difficulties in life anymore. You'll be able to just easily navigate your way through the world. But you need to be able to train the mind in order to be able to have this occur, where you can gradually work towards a more and more peaceful and joyful mental state. And as I mentioned, the teacher is a tour guide, but it's each individual student who's choosing to do the work. So we are here to provide you books and videos and podcasts and audiobooks and video and classes and courses and retreats, even personal guidance and things of this nature. we're actually providing this to you at no cost so that you can then learn and grow and develop on the path and be able to experience more and more improvement in your day-to-day life through improving the way that the mind functions. So the teachings of the Buddha, it's essentially to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is actually inside your own mind. It's not the outside world. Oftentimes people perceive the problems that they're experiencing in their day-to-day life to be the outside world. But it's not the outside world that is causing the difficulties and struggles in your day-to-day life. If that was the case, you would never be able to get to enlightenment because you can't train the outside world to do things your way. And you can't create a bubble to live within. You need to be able to train your own mind. And as you train your own mind, you can get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This is called enlightenment. It's an enlightened mental state. And there's multiple benefits and advantages to having an enlightened mind versus an unenlightened mind. But each individual being is born with an unenlightened mind, and it's an opportunity for you to be able to train your mind and get to more and more peace and more joy and get to the point where the mind's completely eliminated its pollutions of mind so that you can experience the enlightened mental state. So I'm going to stop here and see if you guys have any questions about anything you would like to ask, whether it's related to something that I just shared or whether it's something that you've been exposed to in other places. You're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. Again, for those of you on Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put that in the comment section and I'll be able to see that and answer your question. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So does anybody have any questions that you guys would like to ask? Looks like Tung has a question. All right, go ahead, guys.
David, about the discontentedness feeling, I've got one situation that's quite unique because we discuss a lot that how like our mind believes that it was other people that inflicted those things on us, but it's actually us ourselves. But there's this very specific situation during COVID time. People in Shanghai and back in China, there were 2 months that we were not allowed even to open our door and go out to breathe. And anyone could just come to our door and knock at our door and tell you that, you're going to go to the concentration camp. No reasons explained, and you had to obey. And in that kind of situation, it is very hard to believe that it's our mind that makes us suffering. And also, a lot of people like myself is still suffering from the trauma from that period. Like anyone who would knock at door forcefully, I would have immediate reaction to that. My heart would pump, thinking that someone would arrest me out of nowhere. Like I'm wondering how could I process this and thinking that it is my mind that's making me thinking like that. It's not anyone, any government that put me in this kind of situation.
Okay, perfect. So you're never interested in believing that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself. So we're not talking about what's wise and unwise here in terms of what's causing your mind to experience discontentedness, because someone might say, well, it's unwise to live in a country where someone can just knock on your door and they can arrest you and take you to a concentration camp. Or someone might say it's unwise for that individual to knock on the door and force you to go to some concentration camp, right? So that part of it, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is what is causing the mind to experience the frustration or agitation, or the word you use is suffering, in that situation where you're now having to leave your home. Well, what it is the mind's craving permanence. The mind is craving for things to be a certain way. It's holding on to this house and not wanting to leave. And it's the same thing, like say you were sick, right? And say you were stuck at home and you couldn't go outside. Well, this is the mind now, if it's angry or sad or frustrated, it really wants to go outside, but it can't, so it has to stay at home. So this is the reverse of that, where the mind wants to stay at home, but now it has to go outside. So it's the mind holding on and clinging and craving, wanting things to be permanent. And you can see this in example after example, that the mind is causing this itself. So sure, while somebody came to you and is asking you or even forcing you, and through their words, they're putting pressure on you to try to get you to leave your home. The reason why the mind is experiencing pain or sadness or frustration or agitation or annoyance or any other feeling, even like a dislike, is because the mind's holding on to this home and it's not wanting to let go. So that's what's causing the mind to be discontent, is it's craving for permanence. Can you see that?
That part makes sense. For me back then, I was feeling like I didn't do anything wrong, but I would be treated as a prisoner, and for no reason, even a prisoner would have a chance to go to the court and justify for himself or herself. But back then, we didn't have that opportunity, and we were not out to take a walk in a park. We were out to a place that was pretty much like a prison. So this was the suffering part. It's not like my mind wanted to just rest at home. I don't want to go out to the sunlight. It's totally different situations. It's between freedom and prison.
Do you see the mind craving permanence in that situation?
Is craving for freedom a kind of craving for permanence?
Yeah, holding on to the house, holding on to that place, holding on to wanting to do things a certain way. Again, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise. We're just talking about what is causing the mind to experience these discontent feelings in this situation.
Yeah, I can see that because my mind is holding on to the thought that I didn't do anything wrong, so I should not be punished. It's a thing that I firmly believe it should be that way. And anything that goes against it would make me feel crazy.
Right. So what the mind's craving will do is it will want things to be a certain way. And if things are that way, it will experience happiness or excitement or elation or thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. And when things aren't that way, that's where the mind will experience the painful feelings of anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. So your mind wanted one thing, but you were experiencing something completely different than that. And that's where the painful feelings came in.
Yeah, I start to look at it in that way. But those kind of sense of justice, sense of fairness is still hurting me. I still feel hurt, although I can see that I crave that part, but I don't see a problem of myself craving justice, craving freedom. But it is a kind of craving, is it?
Yeah, it's not the injustice or lack of fairness that is causing the mind to experience the painful feelings. It's the mind craving, longing, yearning. So it's important that you don't think of things as good or bad or right or wrong in this particular context. It's what is the underlying thing in the mind that's causing it to experience these discontent feelings. Any kind of craving, longing, yearning, desire, attachment, wanting, expecting things, it's going to produce these discontent feelings. Have you heard me give the analogy about craving water? Have you heard that? Yeah. So you can see that even if the mind craves water, even something that the body needs in order to stay healthy, if you crave it and you long and yearn for it, you'll experience discontentedness when you don't have it. So it's not about these outside things that are causing the inner feelings that you're experiencing. It's the mind itself. If somebody came to my house, of course, if they asked me to leave, I would say, why? Why is that I need to leave? I don't think I need to leave. Ultimately, if they've got a gun to my head and they're saying, hey, you need to leave, or else, we're going to kill you or whatever. Okay, let's go. Let's see where you would like to go, right? I would do it cheerfully because I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of what might happen in this situation. But I'm also not going to live in a place that has that ability to do those kinds of things, because everything that we experience is based on choices that we make. And if we make a choice to live in a country like that, then we're susceptible to that. And that's what we're experiencing based on our choices. And if we see it any other way, then we're not seeing what we need to, in order to cultivate wisdom, make different decisions and experience different results. Whereas if we keep thinking it's the outside world that is causing us to experience any particular thing, then it never allows us to cultivate the wisdom, make different decisions, and experience different results. So any kind of craving, longing, yearning, desire, even a craving for freedom, you will experience discontentedness when you're not experiencing what the mind wants. So it's important to not think about like, well, isn't it right to crave freedom? Well, what you would like to do is, instead of craving and longing and yearning for freedom, is you have an interest and a goal, an objective to work towards this freedom. Whereas if you long and yearn and crave for it, when you don't have it, that's when you'll be discontent.
Makes sense. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
I've never thought that way.
Yeah, I'll even describe it this way too. I know you're done, but I'll just share this. Like, say one time I was in an airplane many years ago, and they pushed back from the sky bridge, and we were supposed to be departing like in the next 10 minutes or something. But they sat on the tarmac for like 3 hours. There was some problem that they couldn't leave, and they were serving us snacks and drinks and stuff like this. But we couldn't leave the airport, and we were just sitting there. They had pushed us back. We couldn't get off the plane, and we couldn't leave the airport because we were just sitting there. So in that situation, somebody could say, well, we didn't have freedom because we chose to get on the plane. We couldn't get off the plane. There was just no way. So in that situation, if you're craving freedom and your personal choices in that situation, you're going to be angry and frustrated, irritated. And this is just an impermanent situation that is happening, because the mind's going to crave permanence. It's going to crave in the unenlightened state for things to be a certain way, and things can't be that way permanently. So if the mind is craving permanent freedom, when you're in a situation like that, where you're just on the tarmac of an airport, which I think they made laws now that they can't do it that way. But, if you were in that situation, you'd be frustrated and agitated and annoyed and upset and angry and hostile and bitter. And now that's not helping you to do anything at all. It's just causing difficulties within your own mind. Where what the mind could do is just understand, okay, this is an impermanent situation and it will be over at some point. It's just a matter of time. But the mind craving that permanence will just be so angry and frustrated. Okay, any other questions you guys have at the temple or anywhere else throughout the live stream? Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. If you guys don't have any questions, I'll just end class. Let me just give one more opportunity to see if we have any questions anywhere else. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So like I mentioned, on these Wednesdays, we have a question at Tung Yu. Okay, go ahead, guys.
Thank you, David. When, going through life and hopefully with more awareness, and that I experience discontentedness, and then hopefully in the moment I can let it go and the like. But is there a part of the process which is worth analysing? Why do I get discontented in this particular situation? Why does this particular person seem to get me agitated? So I can let that go in the moment. But is there merit in sort of like, I don't know if it's the right word, intellectually, drilling down on what is it about that person that's triggering me in that situation, as an example?
Yeah, what you're talking about there, Steve, is what we call identifying your cravings, desires, attachments. Because anytime the mind is discontent, it's always craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, wanting, expecting, and clinging for things to be a certain way. It's always going to be that. But it's going to be specific things, right? It's going to be craving this person to talk a certain way, craving this person to look a certain way, craving for this person to talk to you or respond to you in a certain way. Oftentimes people like and dislike others, but that is actually coming from one's own mind. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will like everybody. You will enjoy being with anybody. You can love all beings. You won't have this like and dislike. But this dislike that people have in their mind towards another being, they think it's the other person causing it, when in reality it's your own expectations of wanting that person to be a certain way. So you can look at and identify what are the cravings, what are the desires, what's the longing, yearning, what am I expecting this situation to be? And then when I understand what that is, then you can actually actively train the mind to eliminate that. Now, generally, you would like to train the mind with the Eightfold Path. This is a life practice that you're actively training the mind with on a consistent, ongoing basis. On a daily basis, if you understand what each one of these factors are, you can train your mind through each one of these factors and doing that on a consistent, ongoing basis. This is your life practice of what you're doing to train the mind. And if you didn't have this underway, identifying your cravings isn't really of much use, because it's these particular factors of training of your mind that's going to help you to eliminate all cravings, desires, attachments. But once you get the Eightfold Path well underway, then you can start identifying individual cravings, desires, attachments, and training your mind to let that go. And then that's what's going to help you to experience the peace and the joy and the liberation. So I'll just use an example right here, since we just had this situation. Like if I had a craving, a desire, attachment for students to have questions. Well, when students have questions, I'll be happy and excited and elated when everybody has questions. But then if I ask for questions and nobody has any questions, I'd be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. But when you don't have a craving, when you don't have a longing, yearning, then you don't have any discontentedness. So if students have questions, great, I'll answer them. If they don't have questions, okay, that's fine too. I'll just end class, right? Because this class is for you guys. It's not for me, right? So you can get to the point where you're like this with all aspects of your life, where you're not expecting and longing, yearning for things to be a certain way. And we could go through example after example, because like I mentioned to you guys, don't believe what I'm sharing with you. You need to look in your own life, and you need to look at examples of this morning or yesterday or last week when you were angry and frustrated and irritated. You can see that it's your own mind that's longing, yearning, and craving for these things. And like you were just saying, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't recall your name. We haven't had enough interaction for me to have that. But in your mind, you said that you're still holding on to this experience from being in China during COVID. With the people knocking on the door, maybe you get startled or you get fearful when someone knocks on your door. You can train your mind to let that go, but your mind's holding on to that and it's getting startled in those situations. And you can train your mind that you don't need to experience fear or being scared or frustrated or annoyed when you hear a knock at the door or any other situation that may be experiencing the contact through your senses. So, for example, let's use Steve, your question, and then her example. So if you know that when someone knocks on your door, you get startled and you jump because there's fear from this experience that happened in COVID, well, what you can identify with this is that the mind, when it hears a knock on the door, that craving, that desire, that clinging, that arises, and now there's this discontentedness, this fear that comes into the mind. So what I suggest you do is over the course of the next few weeks, have some of your friends come by and knock on your door at different times. Put your mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. Put your mind in the situation that it fears, which is people knocking on your door. And then over time, you'll start associating knocking on your door with something warm and friendly and loving and kind, which is your friends coming by. Because right now you're associating it with somebody maybe dragging you off to a concentration camp. And you've got to replace that with this new experience of someone knocking on your door and saying, hey, how you doing? Here's a chocolate bar. This is for you, or whatever it is, right? Or just, hey, how you doing? I was interested to see if you'd like to go out to the movies or something like that. So this is how if you have the Eightfold Path well underway and you're training your mind in that way, then when you see your mind is discontent, you can identify these cravings and then almost surgically remove them by putting your mind in those situations rather than trying to avoid them, which is what the mind's going to try to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. More questions? Okay, I have some more questions. Steve usually breaks the ice. When Steve asks a question, then lots of people will start asking questions.
Good morning, everybody. So based upon from you shared about whether or not people have questions for you, and then I've been thinking something. So there is a question coming up.
Okay.
I if you there nobody who wants to ask you questions, maybe you would feel frustrated or upset a little bit, but you feel okay and very calm. So like something impermanent or permanent. So it kind of thing. I feel frustrated or I feel happy or I feel sad or feel excited. They're all emotions from human being. But it's the Buddhism, the teaching is trying to get rid of those kind of emotions from human beings. I mean, the emotions are definitely, we are doomed when we're born with emotions.
So for me, I don't feel any frustration when someone doesn't have questions. And I know that to be the case because I've been in classes before where I ask for questions and nobody asked any questions at all. And I just politely end the class and thank people for coming. So my mind has been in that situation at different times. So I know that I don't experience any frustration. And that's how I know I don't have a craving for questions. So a human being isn't born with emotions. A human being is born with the pollutions of mind that is causing the discontent feelings. Because of birth, the mind has craving, desire, attachment, this longing, this yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. From our birth, we're discontent from the very beginning. When the baby is inside the mother's womb, it's experiencing all this great experience that it's in there all by itself. Food's getting pumped into the umbilical cord. The baby's hanging out all by itself in this warm, cozy environment. And then all of a sudden, it gets pushed out into the world, or there's surgery that brings it out into the world. And right away, what do we do as babies? We cry, right? Because we're discontent, because we're craving permanence. We're wanting that experience inside the womb of our mother to be permanent. So another way to say the mind craves permanence is to say that it does not like impermanence. So when this change comes along, when we go from being in that nice, warm mother's womb to being outside in the world, the baby doesn't like this. The mind doesn't like it because it has craving, it has desire, it has longing, yearning. And the underlying problem that's keeping that craving in place is what's referred to as ignorance or the unknowing of true reality or the lack of wisdom. And this is why you can't believe the teachings of the Buddha. You need to be able to cultivate wisdom about them, to be able to see the truth for yourself, that it's not the outside world that's causing these feelings. It's the mind itself. So because the mind's lack of wisdom, because of its confusion and its misunderstanding, craving continues to exist in the mind. And that's why people come to the temple. That's why they consult with a teacher. That's why they read books, because then you can understand how the mind's functioning and you can actually change it. But if you don't understand what's causing your feelings, then you won't actually be able to eliminate these discontent feelings. You don't need to live with sadness. You don't need anger and frustration and agitation and guilt and shame and fear and stress and anxiety. You don't need all these feelings. But the unenlightened mind, because of its lack of wisdom, doesn't know how to eliminate them. But if somebody's done the inner work, the inner development that the Buddha guides you to do, then they know that these feelings aren't permanent and you can actually eliminate them. And as you do, your life and your mind is just going to become better and better.
So, so I think I don't know if that's like a little close to what you just told us. Like even I feel frustrated, and the emotion is not permanent, and it will be end. So it's because you choose wisely, or you have made good decision, or it depends on the things that you have in mind. So let be like a jumping from the human emotions and some like a very calm status of being. So like jump here and there, like because there is the middle. This is something we call wisdom, that we how we choose, how we think about it.
What's your question, ma'am?
It means like the emotions also are impermanent.
Mm-hmm. So what's your question? Are you asking why? Are you asking why is it impermanent?
I mean, because based on what you have said is because if you feel frustrated and excited, all the emotions are not permanent as well, either. So maybe it will feel gone. So it because may like choose wisely, or you have wisdom, then there will be gone the thing that's
The reason why your feelings are not permanent is because they're what's called conditioned feelings. Your feelings are based on some condition, and those feelings arise, they change, and they fade away. So, for example, if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, you'll be happy, you'll be excited, you'll be elated based on a condition that your bank account balance is here. And that feeling is temporary. It's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. And that's why your mind then wants more and more and more, because it's trying to fulfill that craving, that unquenchable thirst. But then if your mind goes down, if your bank account balance goes down here, now you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed. And that feeling is going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away because it's a conditioned feeling. So essentially what you experience, because your mind's unenlightened, is it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. Your mind experiences that day by day by day. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience all of that. Your mind is permanently peaceful and joyful. But your mind can't do that as long as it's untrained. As long as it has these pollutions, your mind will continue to go up and down, experiencing these conditioned feelings where you're basing your inner feelings on some condition, and now your feelings will arise, they will change, and they will fade away.
Oh, I now I can understand a little bit more by visualizing the things, because only me in the very street fight line, so the emotions will going ups and downs, you just keep down in the state. So which is very much like close to the meditation I've been doing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but by the time you experience enlightenment, your mind's not going to do that anymore. You'll just be permanently joyful, permanently happy, but it's unconditioned happiness. It's not conditional happiness anymore. The unenlightened mind is going to see it's sunny outside and get so happy and excited. But then when it's smoky or it's raining or some other weather event, now the mind's going to be sad or frustrated. But you can get to the point where your mind's just always happy. It's always joyful. It's unconditioned. It's not based on any condition. Because as soon as you base your happiness on some condition, that condition is impermanent and it's going to change. And when that condition changes, your mind's going to end up in the sadness or frustration or some other feeling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you so much. And I need to this thing is very hard to use it in daily life. I had to practice a lot, because sometimes you feel very in a very hard condition. It's kind of impossible for you to think about that way.
Yeah. The only reason why it's hard for you is because you lack wisdom about the path to enlightenment. And that's why people come to the temple and study with a teacher. Once you cultivate wisdom about the path, it won't be hard for you anymore. But the reason why life is a struggle and why there are difficulties and why it is hard is because your mind doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It lacks wisdom. But once you cultivate wisdom about the path, it won't be hard anymore.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Pleased to help you. Anything else you guys would like to ask?
As you talk about enlightenment, I would like to know if there's different levels of enlightenment or different layers of enlightenment.
Sure.
As, for example, you said that you train your mind to be able to allow the mind stable and to see in another part in way when you are in front of the difficulties or frustrating. This one layer or one level, or the enlightenment means permanence, that you connect your soul to the higher universe, or your energy to the higher universe, that out of the daily will give you the time that you got in life. But I'm not sure if I express myself well.
I understand what you're asking. Are we still connected? Yeah, we're still connected. Okay. So the Buddha didn't teach whether there is a soul or there isn't a soul. He didn't teach that a soul exists, but he didn't teach that a soul doesn't exist. And the path to enlightenment isn't about connecting to some higher universe. That isn't part of the path to enlightenment. That's like, something that you're not able to independently verify. And that's not the way that an individual would get to enlightenment. But in terms of the stages of enlightenment, there are 4 stages of enlightenment. In terms of enlightenment itself, the mind is enlightened when it gets to the 4th stage of enlightenment. And that's where the mind is actually enlightened. But on your way to that 4th stage of enlightenment, where now the mind is actually enlightened, you will experience the 4 stages. So the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stage of enlightenment. But the mind is actually enlightened in the 4th stage. But as you're moving your mind through those stages of enlightenment, your discontentedness will be gradually diminishing and diminishing and diminishing and diminishing. But it's not until you get to the 4th stage that you've eliminated all your discontentedness, and all the qualities of enlightenment are being experienced once you're in the 4th stage. But it's not like the light is on or the light is off. It's a gradual progression. Gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. It's not instantaneous. So the mind is going to gradually make its way to enlightenment, moving through the 4 jhanas, which are preliminary phases that the mind goes through. And then there's 4 stages of enlightenment where the mind actually gets to the 4th stage. Once the mind is actually enlightened and is no longer experiencing discontentedness, you'll know that your mind's enlightened, because it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You don't have any discontentedness whatsoever. Your life is at ease. There's no struggles. There's no difficulties. But even from that 4th stage of enlightenment, if you continue to meditate and you continue to train your mind, you'll experience increased levels of concentration and clarity. But that's not to say that someone's in the 4th stage, they don't experience concentration and clarity. It's just that there's increased levels of it beyond what one experiences when they first are moving into that 4th stage of enlightenment. So yes, there are 4 stages of enlightenment. The mind is actually enlightened when it gets to the 4th stage, but none of that involves a soul or connecting to the universe or any of those other kind of things. What you're doing is you're cultivating wisdom, you're training your mind, you're uprooting pollutions out of your mind through training of the mind. And as you do this, and as you learn how to do this, you'll be able to see that it actually works, because you know situations where you get angry and sad and frustrated or other discontent feelings. And when you're in those same exact situations and you don't experience that kind of emotions, then you'll know that your mind is making progress. Any other questions that you guys have?
Hi, David. Nice to talk to you. My question is like,
I maybe in the past 1 or 2 years, I meditation a lot and I use a lot of the Sandona method of release, which means I try to remove my polluted emotions. But however, I don't really feel frustrated, sad, or angry at the moment. But opposite, I can't really feel the happiness. When the happy things comes to my mind, I also try to release them. It's like an automatic practice of the release of polluted emotion. So I would like to ask advice to stop a little bit for meditation or keep this way.
I'm not sure what you're currently doing with the current practice that you have. If you learn and practice the teachings of the Buddha, I know that they lead to enlightenment for sure. And part of what the Buddha is teaching you to do is cut off and let go of conditioned, pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But those are conditioned, pleasant feelings based on some condition. Like if my mom calls me today, I will be happy. But if you allow your mind to do that, that means when your mom doesn't call you, you'll be sad or frustrated. So you're cutting that off. Or if you get happy when it's sunny outside, the Buddha is teaching you to cut that off before the mind ever forms that feeling of pleasant feelings of happiness. Cut that off before it ever gets formed. Because if you form your feelings of happiness based on the sun, that means when it's not sunny, you'll be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. So there's a consistent ongoing training where it's very intuitive to understand to eliminate painful feelings like sadness, anger, and frustration. But you need to also understand the elimination of conditioned pleasant feelings, that you need to train the mind to not form its inner feelings based on some condition. So that by the time you're making your way to enlightenment, you're no longer experiencing conditioned happiness or excitement or elation, but instead the mind is just always joyful. It's always bright. It's always uplifted. And that comes through training. So I can't speak on the type of training that you're currently doing, but if you learn and practice the Eightfold Path, I would explain to somebody to keep going. The answer and solution to solving the mind's difficulties isn't to stop what's working, but I suggest, or I imagine that the things that you're currently doing probably doesn't have the complete package of everything that you need in order to get to enlightenment, because I've never seen anything in the world other than the teachings of the Buddha that have a complete package, a complete solution. So probably what you have been learning and practicing, it probably has some voids or some holes. It's probably lacking certain things that you need in order to be able to make your way to this enlightened mental state. So if you would like to learn, you're more than welcome to. I will help you so that you can have the complete solution of what you need to be able to move the mind to enlightenment.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I already started learning something about Buddhism, and I also want to ask if it's okay or appropriate to let every emotion go. It's like let it go. Even it's happy or even it's frustration, just let it go. Is that okay to do?
Yeah, two things I'll share with you there is you're letting go of the conditioned feelings, where your feelings are based on some condition. And you actually need to eliminate them before they actually are formed. There's a sequence of events that occurs. Before you get angry or sad or frustrated or even happy or excited, there's some bodily sensation that is occurring. So for example, with happiness, you might have tingling across your shoulders, up the back of the neck or over your head. With something like anger or sadness or something like this, you might notice some tingling in the body rising up towards your chest. You might notice tightening in your chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is from the anger and the frustration that is arising. That's the bodily sensation. That's like an early warning system, alerting you that your mind is about to experience a conditioned feeling. You would like to cut it off and let it go there. Once it becomes a feeling, it still needs to be cut off and let go of there, but the mind is still forming the conditioned feeling. You would like to get way ahead of this, where you're cutting it off and letting it go before it actually forms a conditioned feeling. This isn't suppressing your feelings. This is cutting it off and letting it go before it actually gets to the point where it forms a feeling. So you're essentially rewiring the mind. So if you cut off and let go before it forms the conditioned feeling, now your mind is actually being rewired to no longer form its inner feelings based on some condition. This is part of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So while you say that you are maybe learning or being exposed to some Buddhist things, it's important to understand that if you're not studying with the original words of the Buddha, most frequently people aren't studying his original teachings. So you're probably not studying with the original words of the Buddha. So therefore, you're going to have difficulties understanding what you need to be doing in order to move the mind to enlightenment. It's very rare that people study with his original words. So I would encourage you to get access to the original words of the Buddha, which you have access to from our website. They're free. You can download it. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions there at the temple by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get them on Amazon. Because oftentimes people think what they're being exposed to is Buddhism because maybe they're learning from a Buddhist monk, or maybe it's in a book that says Buddhism. But you need to be able to understand that the way that the world is constructed is there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people aren't really learning and growing and developing with his original teachings. And that's going to hinder you from being able to experience improvement to the condition of the mind in your life if you're not studying with his original teachings. So back to the first thing is you need to cut off and let go at the bodily sensations. That's what's going to help you to rewire the mind so it doesn't keep forming these conditioned feelings.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. It's really helpful.
You're welcome. Anything else you guys would like to ask? Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. Okay. Oh, one more. And remind me of your name again. I know we've talked plenty of times.
Yeah, Rona.
Say again.
Rona.
Rona. How do you spell it?
RHONA.
RHONA. Okay, Rona. Okay, I got it now.
I've got a question, but it's just out of curiosity. For an enlightened mind, everything is joyful. We like everyone. We like every place. So why did you choose Chiang Mai over DC?
So
just kind of curiosity, like how to make decisions without conditioned feelings and conditioned factors.
Sure. So you're not going to be basing your decisions on craving, desire, attachment, but you will make wise decisions and you might have certain preferences. So for me, as a person who's sharing the teachings of the Buddha, Chiang Mai is a perfect place to do that because the people that come there are oftentimes looking for Buddhist teachings. It's an international community, so I can teach the entire world just from one city. Whereas if I was in the USA, for example, I would only be able to teach people here in the USA or anybody that's able to get a visa to the USA. And it's very expensive to come to the USA. The USA doesn't really approve visas for a lot of people in the world. So it would really be constrained to be able to teach the entire world by teaching inside of Washington, D.C. or the USA, because that's where I grew up and that's where I lived, was in the Washington, D.C. area. So by moving to Chiang Mai, my costs are a lot lower. My ability to teach the entire world is increased because it's an international community. It's easy for people to get visas to come to Chiang Mai. And from Chiang Mai, within a 4,000 kilometer radius is 50% of the world's population. So when I teach, I have the ability to teach half of the entire world by staying in Chiang Mai. And when I live stream from there, I'm on the same time zone as those people. So there's much more ability to reach a wider audience and help more people and live at a lesser price by living in Chiang Mai and teaching there. So that is a wise decision that I've made that matches to my lifestyle and what it is that I'm choosing to do. And that's a preference. It's not a craving, desire, attachment, because when I'm in Chiang Mai, I have a great time. I enjoy it fully. But when I'm away from Chiang Mai, I don't miss it. I'm not longing, yearning for it. It's not like, oh, I wish I was in Chiang Mai. Oh, I feel so miserable that I'm not in Chiang Mai. That would be an attachment. But can be perfectly peaceful and joyful and enjoy being in Chiang Mai. And I can be perfectly peaceful and joyful not in being in Chiang Mai too. But my preference and my choice, my decision is to live in Chiang Mai because it matches to my goals and objectives that I'm working towards in this life.
How about the decision to have a life partner? Like if we apply the same mindset in choosing a life partner. So when for example, when we're with them, we feel happy. When we're not with them, we feel totally okay. We don't miss you at all. We're happy there. Like during a business trip, if you tell your wife that, hey, darling, you know what? I don't miss you at all. I feel happy here. I guess the relationship would not end up well. So I'm just curious.
That's not true. My wife, she understands these teachings. So she understands that when you're missing somebody, that's not from the love. That's from the craving, desire, attachment. That's the thing that people misunderstand because of the lack of wisdom. They will think when you feel miserable that your life partner is not around, that's because you love that person. That's not it. It's because the mind is attached. It's that when you're with me, I'm getting what I want, so I'm so happy. But when you're away from me, I'm not getting what I want, so the mind's angry or frustrated or feeling miserable. That's the craving for permanence. The mind's craving to be with this person permanently. So when I'm with my wife, I enjoy it fully and thoroughly. But when I'm away from her, I fully and thoroughly enjoy being away from her too. I'm not enjoying because I'm away from her. I'm just enjoying being here with the people that I'm with. So when you first come together with a life partner, you're going to have craving, desire, attachment. That's what is attracting you to that person, either physically, either financially, maybe their social status or some other thing. You're attracted to this person. And now when you guys get together, you have attachment. But then if you guys together are individually working on the path, you can get to a point where neither person has attachment to each other. As long as you guys have attachment to each other as a life partner, you'll be angry and frustrated and agitated and annoyed with each other. You'll have difficulties and struggles in your relationships. And that's why so many relationships end because of these cravings, these expectations, these wants. It's not because of the love that's causing the pain. It's because of the craving, desire, attachment. So once you get to a relationship, if you guys both are working on this path, and you eliminate those cravings, desires, attachments, the wants and expectations, you can be completely peaceful and joyful in your relationship. And by that point, you guys will both be either enlightened or very close to it. And now your partner would understand when you're away, they would not miss you. They would have a completely full and enjoyable life, and you would too. So sometimes my wife goes to the USA for 2 months at a time. Me and my son, we don't miss her. We enjoy thoroughly when mom's home, but we also have an enjoyable time when she's not there too. Our feelings and emotions aren't attached to whether she's with us or not. And that's where real liberation, talk about freedom. You're interested in freedom, Rona. That's where your mind is free. Because no matter where you are free. Your mind's completely peaceful and joyful.
That sounds like a very ideal status for any relationship, like friendship or romantic relationships. Still need time to digest and work on it.
Yeah, that's what the whole path is about, is learning and growing and training your mind. It's not going to be something that you accomplish in 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. It's a gradual training of the mind with gradual progress that you're going to experience this gradual improvement.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome. The Buddha took 6 years to get to enlightenment, so it's going to take you a little while. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So I'm going to end class by just thanking all of you guys for your questions. Thank you for our discussion. Thank you for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to. We have classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Those are our regular classes at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Thai time. I'm going to be back in Chiang Mai on Friday. So I'm going to be leaving here soon, and I'll be back around mid-morning or afternoon having lunch in Chiang Mai. Then I'll be back to the temple for Saturday morning's class. But no matter where you are in the world, you can tune in, because even when I'm at the temple, I live stream the classes. You probably see all the equipment there that we live stream the classes. So you can attend live if you like, or you can watch the recordings because they're on YouTube, Facebook, even we record it for our podcast. If you guys are interested in experiencing the peace and joy of the enlightened mind, there's help for you here. You just need to decide that you're done with the stress, you're done with the anxiety, you're done with the guilt and the shame and the fear. And when you're done with all these difficult emotions, there's help for you to figure out how to do this. So all you need to do is decide that that's what you're interested in, and everything's been made available for you at no cost. So perhaps I'll see you guys in one of our future classes on Saturday, Sunday, or Wednesday, or even our courses. We have Monday through Friday courses that you can see on the bulletin board there at the temple, or you can see them on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee-ka.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.